I am Eva Fast, and I teach marketing and entrepreneurship at John Brown University. And I'm here with Gina Radke, and you are the owner and CEO of an aerospace manufacturing company, Galley Support Innovations. So I understand you all make the latches and locks in aviation. So thinking on like a Boeing aircraft, is that?
Yes. So our big claim to fame is if you've ever been to the bathroom on a Boeing aircraft, we make the occupied vacant latch. So I tell everybody that we keep your privates private while you're in the sky. So it's one of those things that no one thinks about, but you really appreciate when they work.
Okay. So. Wonderful. And I know you have just a list of accomplishments, being named 1 in 5 women to watch in international business, and you actually advise Congress on international trade, and just named 40 under 40 in the National Association for Aviation. And it's a real privilege to get to have you and talk to you at JBU. And today, kind of unpacking for a few minutes on hustle and the female entrepreneur. So you actually bought the business in California from a relative, is that right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So it's an interesting story, and we actually bought the business from my husband's uncle. However, my husband did not know his father till he was 30, so we met the family about a year before we purchased the business. And we had done really well in some real estate in Florida and decided we were going to go into business for ourselves, and we'd looked at several options, and his grandmother said, you know, maybe God set you apart from the family so you could carry on the legacy. So what we did was we went in and we bought the business, and initially I was not behind it. I'll be honest, I told my husband, you can do this and I'll keep a job, and then you know, when things come crashing down, I'll have, you know, kind of held the family up. So I was much more the, this is the way I do it, you know, we get on the graduate high school, we go to college, we work somewhere for 20 years type person, where my husband was much more entrepreneurial at that time. And he still is, and I have grown to be much more now that, you know, we've been in business for a while. So we looked at the business, decided that just purchasing it outright was not going to be the best for us. So we did an asset purchase, and it was kind of amazing. At 27, I said, you know, what if we just buy the rights to produce it and the assets of the business instead of the actual business? And so that's what we did.
So fascinating. Yeah, a little bit of a different entry point, but neat to see how you've taken it in such a new direction, and one of the leading manufacturers and designers in the aviation sector?
Yes, yes, absolutely. So we've actually done all of the new Gulfstream aircraft since 2008.
Okay.
So we've worked with them quite extensively, as well as Boeing and Dassault Falcon. And so.
Okay. So that gives us a little bit of context and background for who you are. To kick us off here, my first question is just to help us get to know what it's like to be in your industry, and especially in your position. So statistics show that only about 5% of companies in the US are run by female CEOs, and that number is recently started to decline. I imagine that number is even more rare in the aerospace industry. So what do you wish you would have known starting out in your career, especially given your current industry and position?
I really wish that there would have been a female mentor. That was not something that I was afforded. You know, on average, statistics show that about 14% of executives are women, but 52% of our workforce is women. So we don't have the numbers percentage-wise for everyone that's in the workforce to be mentored. And so I really wish that I would have had a female mentor to kind of guide me through and tell me things about business. And I have had wonderful male mentors who gave me great advice. The best advice I've ever received was to find a great CPO and a good lawyer right when you start your business. And so that was excellent advice, and I'm glad that I've received that and heeded that advice. But I think that I wish, more than anything, probably that someone would have said it's consistency. You're not going to go in, it's going to be exciting in the beginning, and then all of a sudden you're probably going to be broke and you're going to be panicked, and it's going to be a roller coaster up and down, but the way to make it work is to be consistent. So that would have been great to know in the beginning.
Right, going in when you're working through those emotions of a startup and having that knowledge. To flip that around a bit, what would you say are some of the best things about being a leader, especially given this particular time and space? What are some of the best things you've experienced now?
I think right now our society is open to the idea of women leaders. They see a need for that, and so it's all about intentional inclusion right now. Mm-hmm. And so people are trying to intentionally include others than just your average sort of white older male executive. And I have nothing against older white males, but we see a lot of them in business, and so we need to see more women, and I think that society is seeing that. They're seeing the virtues of women and how it's important and how diversity increases profitability within companies. There was recently a study done by the University of California at Davis, and I believe they followed companies for about 11 years, and they saw that the top 25 that had the highest amount of women in leadership and middle to upper management actually outperformed the others. And so I think people are seeing the need for that, and they're encouraging more women to go into business and to go into being CEOs and being executives.
Right. Neat to see what can happen when there's openness to that and awareness of that. What have been some of your most constructive responses to men and women who dismiss you or look past you in the business world?
Oh no, you're getting into my book now. I'm actually writing a book about this, and one of the chapters is about, sort of being dismissed. And at this point in my career, I'm very lucky where people can Google me and they can see my accomplishments, and that's nice. But also, when I have been dismissed in the past, I tend to ask questions, and I will say, well, can you explain this, or do you know the answer to this? And it may be a question that I may full well have the answer to and know that they do not. Or I hate to do it, but sometimes you have to kind of run the resume where you say, I've been running a machine for 13 years now, or I've been, I brought us up from $10,000 in sales to several $1 million in sales a year. So unfortunately, sometimes we do still have to prove ourselves, and we have to prove that we have the credibility. But I tend to try to do it as nicely as possible, because I know that I tend to be the person who goes in and I'm, full throttle, and I'm like, hey, we're going to get this done, let's do this. And I don't stop and think, maybe this person has questions, or maybe I'm not giving them their due credit, and so I don't want to assume that someone is just being dismissive of me because I'm a woman. But when it does happen, I do make a point to say, I've been doing this for several years, or how long have you been doing this, or let's sort of compare resumes, not in a combative way, but just in a simple, let's see what we can do to work together.
Right, find that common ground.
Yeah.
Do you feel like your response has changed significantly since, you became CEO of the company about 12 years ago?
Yes.
Have your responses changed over time to that kind of dismissal or?
Well, one of the ways that they've changed, I have several male allies now who, if they know me, they know my business background, they know my machining background, they can come in, and when someone else dismisses me, they almost always step in and say, well, actually, she's run all these machines on this floor. And that's one of the great things about being in business with my husband, is when he's around, he can step up and speak to my experience. Also, one of the negative things about being in business with him is people will automatically assume that I don't really work there, or that I don't really run the company, that I'm just a figurehead. Or one of the questions I get all the time, and it's the funniest thing, is they say, are you the CEO for tax purposes? You get no special treatment by the IRS for being a woman. They do not care whatsoever. And we are a certified women-owned business, and the reason that I chose to do that wasn't because we do government contracting, was because I felt like it was something to say, add that credibility to the fact that, yes, I do run the company.
Right.
So,
wow. Yeah. My third question here, it's from a book called The Confidence Code, and it says that women often struggle to know how to act, meaning there's this pressure to downplay our femininity or our appearance and engage in more sports talk. So how do you manage that tension at work?
Well, that's actually interesting. I go the opposite way. And it's almost the element of surprise. When I am not working on the floor with my employees, I will wear a lot of skirts and heels, and I do that when I go into business meetings as well, and I meet with engineers, and I do that because it's almost an interesting to watch someone's reaction when I start speaking about international trade, or when I start speaking about contract negotiations, or good business ethics or business morality, and they kind of look at me like that's not what I was expecting. And so I kind of think that's a little fun. But I've made a point not to downplay my femininity. I enjoy being a feminine female, and I have no issues with people who are not. Doesn't bother me. You do you, and I'll do me. And so I've really kind of captured that because, one, it makes me stand out in my field, and two, it's a fun little element of surprise.
Right.
In all honesty.
And not losing who you are in the process.
Right.
Yeah, the book kind of digs into that deeper, and they interview various women in power and leadership in the military, the WNBA, and a lot of their findings in the book is similar to what you're saying. Is it's better to embrace who you are than to try to change and conform.
Right. And I prepare, I know that if I walk into a trade show or to certain things, I get the question, so you must be in marketing. They always ask me that, and I don't even know what that means. The first time someone asked me that, I said, what makes you think that? And they said, well, you've got a yellow, shirt on, and most people, executives, don't wear yellow. And I thought, okay, and it was just the oddest thing. But I'm prepared for that. I think I've been doing this long enough to where most things don't surprise me anymore.
Right.
So I just kind of prepare with it and roll with it. And,
right. It doesn't faze you.
Yeah. And then sometimes I'll go ahead and I'll try to connect with people on LinkedIn, and then they can see my resume. And so that's always a nice little, an added credibility boost there.
Right. Getting to know kind of all the experiences that you've had. So some research suggests that socialization of gender roles taught women certain mindsets earlier in their lives that become problematic when they reach the workplace. So women tend to see themselves as second class. Could you share experiences of how you've established a different mindset for yourself?
What often happens is we think that because, we're women, that maybe we don't have as much experience, or our experience is not as validated as the males in the room. And so what we tend to do is we just kind of quiet ourselves. Sometimes we're quieted by the men in the room, but often it starts with us quieting ourselves. And so I honestly remind myself, I do an inventory, and I say, I am sitting in this board meeting because I was appointed by the governor, because I was requested by the executive director of the Aviation Association, because I was interviewed by a senator, because I started a business that's been in business for 13 years, because I'm a multi-million-dollar company and international. And so I run an inventory of everything that I've achieved, so that when I'm sitting in that place and have the urge to sort of go, well, I'm less than, we need to let the men speak, kind of remind myself, you have earned your right to be here. And so that is one of the biggest things that I have done in my life, is remind myself that I have earned the right to be in that room. Right. And I deserve and is just as much respect as everyone else, and I give as much respect as everyone else.
Right. I like that, the inventory, to mentally put yourself in that space to give yourself the opportunity to be who you are. Yeah. I think even as Christians, almost there's this added layer of complexity to how we view ourselves, and humility, and that can play a part into, well, I don't want to brag about myself, and yet there's a difference between bragging and having a humble confidence in what you've been called to do and what you've accomplished in the past. So.
Yeah, exactly.
My last question here, research shows that women are not always as supportive of other women as one would hope. Kind of a surprising finding that research studies have found. So now that you're in a position of leadership, how do you support men and women as they develop their careers?
Well, I'm huge into supporting everyone. I want to empower women. I want to empower men. I do realize that there is a lack of female leadership, and so I am very aware that if I want to encourage people, that I need to show, hey, this is what female leadership looks like. So I'm very open to encouraging people. I like to mentor, and even recognizing, oftentimes for the awards that I've been recognized for, if I'm recognized for an award, I like to go out and say, hey, here's someone else who's doing something great. Oftentimes, being a woman in manufacturing and a woman in aviation, I am always invited. It'll be a 5-man panel and then me as the woman. And so a lot of times I'll say, are you looking for, diversity? Are you looking for a female? And if they say yes, I say, I can't make it that day, but I know someone else that can. So I try to offer a hand up to the other women. I try to encourage them. It's very, very important that we do that and that we do not stop and say things like, well, I don't hang out with other women because they gossip, or I don't have any female friends because it's all drama. That when we do that, that not only, we think that maybe it's going to make us, more relatable to the guys in the room, but it's not. What it does is it puts us down and it puts all the other women down. And our goal is not to shine for one moment or to be relatable for one moment. It's to lift everyone up around us, and that includes all of the other women. So we, as women, we need to be extremely careful on how we speak about other women and not perpetrate those stereotypes that women are emotional or women are gossips. We need to be perpetrating the stereotypes that women leadership is powerful.
Right. They seem like harmless comments on the side here and there, but help to perpetuate that self-talk and that stereotype that you're talking about. I wondered, also as a CEO, being in upper leadership, one of the things some of the studies have found is that women are now more represented in the workforce, but they're not getting to those higher C-suite jobs because of a lack of kind of diverse experiences. So they're not as strategic, perhaps, in how they're gaining experience in both different line positions. So women will often get selected for HR or PR, but not be in the line positions for marketing and operations. Do you think that's true? And how does that work in your company about intentionally promoting both men and women in diverse functions of the business?
I do think that's true, and I think that one thing that women do is we tend to think that loyalty to one department or one company is what's going to lead us up the ladder to success, and we're not looking at the fact that we need diverse experiences. And so women tend to think, I'm going to get this job and get this job done correctly and then move up as it comes, where men, and I don't know if they think this way, but this is the way it appears, they tend to go, I need a little experience here, and I'm going to move here and get a little experience and go here a little experience and sort of see maybe the big picture. And women, we need to start doing that. We need to know that if we move from one department to another or one job to another, it doesn't make us a bad employee. It makes us more valuable in the end to have those different experiences. And I think that that's a lack of confidence is why we don't do that, because we think, well, that'll look bad on my resume, or they'll think, maybe I'm hard to get along with, so I don't want to do that. So we need to understand that basically if men can do it, then we can do it too. Then we should have the confidence to make those steps. I always say there's a lot to learn from men. We don't have to kick down the doors and smash the ceilings. We can take down, those doors can be open to us and those ceilings can be taken down by simply learning from men and saying, now wait a minute, I treated you the exact same way that this man treats you. I wasn't being emotional, he was stating this fact and now I'm stating this fact, and my resume lines up with this gentleman's resume. He had 4 different appointments in 4 different departments and I've had 4 different appointments in 4 different departments. So we have to stop limiting ourselves, and so that's really important. And one of the ways that I do that in our company is we tell everybody from the beginning, you can go anywhere in this company up to the owner. You can be the CEO, you can be the COO, you can do anything. You can come and start as an assembler, and then you can be a CNC operator. You can be an engineer. What do you want to do? We want to help you move up that ladder and do different things. So we really try to encourage that. One, because we want people who are in executive levels and upper management to have a vast array of experience, and also because we want them to be happy at our company. If they need a new challenge, hey, let's find that challenge for you in our company. Not, you don't have to go somewhere else, So what can we do to keep them engaged and keep that experience and that knowledge within our company?
That's really neat. I mean, you surfaced several different points there. When I originally was thinking through this question, and similar to what you said, it's women tend to want to master the tasks and the department and to perfect those things, but kind of what you surfaced there, even an added level of loyalty. Like, I need to stay in this department to be loyal, and so that's something I'd never thought of before.
Yeah.
So being on a college campus, I have to ask this question: what would be some of your advice to students who are thinking about an entrepreneurial career path?
Well, I would think that there are so many resources right now that you can get plugged into that were not available even when I started in business just 13 years ago. There's Startup Junkie here in Northwest Arkansas. There's the Innovation Hub in Little Rock. The Arkansas Economic Development Commission actually has programs for entrepreneurs. So I would definitely suggest getting involved in some of those and finding out their resources. Take some basic business courses. And understand what you want to do. What do you want to do that's going to change the world? What is your passion? And I know that's a question that everybody, nobody wants to admit that, hey, I'm, however old I am and I don't understand that. But what is it that excites you? And so do those things. Get connected with resources. It's extremely important. We have more resources for entrepreneurs now than we ever have in the past.
Thank you. That is great. Yeah, it's helpful to know you're not doing it alone. And I do think Northwest Arkansas has a unique culture of support and resources. So
They do, absolutely.
I really appreciate your time. Just getting to unpack your experiences and understanding your perspective, I think gives voice to how women and men can be thinking about what it looks like to develop careers. So thanks for your time.
Thank you.